There once lived a Nigerian black woman named Ngozi, whose beauty was the kind that stopped conversations mid-sentence. Her skin shimmered like onyx in moonlight, and her hips curved with the elegance of God's final signature on creation, like something God took time to specially mold after he had created all things. But Ngozi never said no to men who made sexual advances toward her. Any man that proposed to her had her the same day. The men did not even need to give her money or send her on proper dates. She would willingly give her body. Sometimes, the men did not even need to ask her. Ngozi would make the initial advances herself. People in the town of Ibuka thought she was cheap. The men would group together and laugh at her, saying, "This one, you don't need much effect to get into bed with her. Nah, just smile you need," they'd say, under the old baobab tree. No be woman be that, not community pleasure. They called her names. They laughed behind her back. Yet they kept coming back. But there was one gentleman named Ibuka, whom, no matter what, Ngozi had decided not to give in to his advances. Ibuka was a calm soul, tall and strong, with eyes that seemed to weigh the truth in everything. People admired him. Elders respected him. He worked with his hands, spoke with care, and carried himself with quiet pride. And unlike the others, he never approached Amara with lust in his eyes but something deeper: love. Ibuka was equally handsome, and many ladies in the town desired him but not Ngozi. The man was actually in love with her. He would always get angry whenever other men in the village made fun of how they made out with Ngozi the same day they asked her out. Some would say, "That girl is not worthy of marriage, na enjoyment toy she be." But Ibuka would always come to her defense and say, "She's not what you think." One day, Ibuka cornered Ngozi and asked her directly, "Why don't you want to accept my proposal?" But Ngozi said, "I don't want to accept your proposal because I love you." Ibuka was taken aback by the woman professing love to him, but he was also confused. "If you love me, why do you avoid me? Why are you not accepting my proposal?" he asked. But Ngozi answered, "Because I don't deserve you," she said quietly. "You're too kind, too real. I'm stained, Ibuka. You don't marry a woman like me." And before she could finish, Ibuka kissed her. But Ngozi quickly pulled away and stormed off. Frustration lingered in the air. A day came when the men in the town started falling ill. The first among them, Ikenna, visited the hospital and was told he had HIV, AIDS. He was devastated. He told his friends, Tochukwu, Chuka, and Nonsoth, same ones he always lingered with under the tree. They all looked at each other quietly, then began to speak one by one. Chuka confessed, "I was also diagnosed few days back." Nonso added, "I was diagnosed last month. I didn't know how to tell you guys. I feared you would never associate with me again, so I kept it to myself." The rest of them turned to Nonso and said, "Aha! So now you give all of us this thing, Abai." Nonso raised his voice. "How I take give Una. I know they sleep with Una. We know they share toothbrush." Silence again. They all stood under their usual tree where they used to gist, laugh, and brag. But this time there was no laughter. Only silence. Only worry. Only sorrow in the air. Then one of them said finally, "Na death warranty we don't have be this ooh." But as they stood under the tree murmuring, they saw Ngozi walking toward them. Her steps were slow, her expression calm, like someone with no idea what storm was brewing. Nonso nudged the others. "Guys," he said, his voice low, "I think I know where we all got our infection from." The rest of them turned sharply, all asking at once, "Where?" Nonso raised his hand and pointed in Ngozi's direction. "Her." As Ngozi got closer, they all came together and surrounded her. She paused, confused, looking around at their angry faces. "What is the problem with you people?" she asked. "Why are you blocking my path?" Chuka shoved her lightly. "So it's you, eh? You are the cause of our problem." Ngozi, now alarmed, frowned. "What problem?" Tochukwu raised his hand again to push her harder, when suddenly Ibuka arrived. "What is the matter with all of you?" he shouted, stepping between them. "Why are you trying to fight a woman? Don't you people have any conscience left?" Tochukwu, ignoring Ibuka, turned to Emeka. "Allow us to teach this HIV, virus of a human being, a lesson." Emeka was stunned. Ngozi too stood frozen. Her heart dropped. Her secret, the one she had buried deep, was finally out. But she quickly put on a face of denial. Emeka, confused and disturbed, looked at her. Ngozi, what are they talking about? Do you have HIV? She stammered, avoiding his eyes. I don't know what they're talking about. But Emeka wasn't convinced. He took her hand gently and pulled her away from the angry group. They walked quietly until they were alone, away from the noise and judgment. When they reached a quiet spot, Emeka turned to her and said softly, "Tell me the truth. Since when have you had this virus? Is that why you don't want to be with me?" Ngozi looked down. Her throat was tight. She wanted to lie. She wanted to walk away. But his voice was too sincere, and he had protected her. "Look," she said finally, her voice breaking. "I don't owe you any explanation, okay?" But Emeka didn't raise his voice. "We are not around them now. Please, be honest with me. They could have seriously hurt you back there if I hadn't shown up." There was silence. Then her shoulders dropped. With her head bowed, she whispered, "I was raped. Okay?" Emeka's eyes widened. She continued, 5 years ago. I was coming back from work. My colleague didn't show up for her shift, so I had to stay late. I was tired. It was dark. Then 2 vagabonds dragged me into the bush. And they had their way with me." Her voice cracked. Her hands were trembling. "Months later, I wasn't feeling well. I went to the hospital. They ran tests. And that was when I found out I was HIV positive." Emeka stood there, frozen, heart torn. But when Ngozi began to cry, he stepped forward and pulled her into a soft embrace. "I'm so sorry," he said gently. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that pain." Ngozi leaned into him, weeping, and finally let out what she had never told anyone. "After that, I hated myself. I hated men. I wanted them to feel what I felt, that helplessness, that betrayal. I made a vow that I would spread it to as many of them as I could. I wanted to destroy them the way I felt destroyed." Emeka was silent. "But these men," he said quietly, "they are foolish, yes. But they are not the ones who did that to you." Ngozi nodded through her tears. I know. But I didn't care. I just wanted them to suffer. I wanted all men to suffer. But now I don't even know who I am anymore." She collapsed to the ground in tears. Emeka knelt beside her and held her close. He didn't say anything. Because in that moment, what she needed wasn't judgment, it was mercy. The subsequent days were full of hospital checkups for Ngozi. Through it all, Emeka stood by her side like a pillar, never once letting her feel alone. But the people in the town were not having it. The news had spread faster than wildfire. Everywhere Ngozi went, people stared with disgust. Parents would pull their children aside when she passed. Some children, when they saw her coming, would scream and run, shouting, "Virus ooh, virus ooh." They had been warned by their parents never to go near her. "If she touches you, you too will carry that virus and die," they had said. At home, the humiliation was worse. Her co-tenants made her life unbearable. She wasn't allowed to hang her clothes on the shared drying line. When she returned from work and approached her door, some tenants would stand by their windows or verandas, spraying insecticide and muttering, "Make this one no infect our air." She felt like a living curse. She could no longer take the stigma. One night, with tears in her eyes, she told Emeka, the only person who truly showed her care, "I can't stay here anymore. I'm tired." Emeka held her hands and said gently, "Then change your location. Start again, somewhere new, where no one knows your past." And that's exactly what she did. Ngozi moved to a different state, quiet, far from the whispers and wicked stares. She started taking her medication seriously, visiting the hospital regularly. Sometimes, she would go to church and kneel quietly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "God, please, heal me," she would pray. "Heal my body, and forgive me for the innocent lives I tried to destroy." It was in that place of surrender that healing began to touch her. Doctors noticed something unusual: her viral load was reducing. At each visit, they would look at her test results and blink twice. Ngozi, one of the doctors said one day, "Your viral count is dropping drastically. This is surprising. Months ago, the virus was aggressive in your system." But she smiled and replied, "I invited the Lord into the situation." She called Ibuka that evening, voice shaking with joy. He couldn't stop laughing on the phone. "I told you God hadn't abandoned you," he said. 5 months later, Ngozi went in for another round of tests. This time, the results came back. HIV, negative. All tests, non-detectable. She stood in that hospital hallway crying. But this time, they were tears of joy. That same week, Ibuka visited her with a heavy heart. "Ngozi, I have bad news," he said. "Nonso is dead." She froze. "What?" He refused to go for treatment. He lost all hope. He believed there was no way out. He just gave up. Ngozi sat down, devastated. "I want to go back, to pay my respects. To say sorry, even if it's too late," she said. But Ibuka gently warned her. "That town already blames you for his death. Showing your face there now may cause even more trouble. Let the dead rest, my love." The rest of the men who had taken their medication seriously were showing signs of improvement. Gradually, their health began to stabilize. And in that peaceful new town where Ngozi had started life afresh, Ibuka knelt down one evening and proposed once again. This time, Ngozi didn't hesitate. She said yes with a full heart and clear mind. Their love, once surrounded by chaos, bloomed into marriage, a union built not on shame or guilt, but on healing, honesty, and second chances. Moral lessons from the story. 1. Stigmatization hurts more than the disease itself. Sometimes, the way people treat you after finding out you're sick can cause more emotional pain than the sickness itself. Ngozi was not only suffering from HIV, but also from how people treated her because of it. Her neighbors mocked her, children ran from her, and even basic things like using the clothesline became a problem. She was treated like she wasn't human, all because of the sickness she had. 2. Healing begins with acceptance and accountability. Ngozi's turning point came when she acknowledged her past and sought God's forgiveness. The story teaches that true healing emotionally, spiritually, and even physically begins when we take responsibility for our actions. 3. Don't let pain turn you into the monster that hurt you. Ngozi's desire for revenge after her rape led her to spread pain to others. But in the end, she realized the people she hurt were not the ones who wronged her. It teaches that hurting others because we were hurt only multiplies suffering. 4. There's always hope, even in seemingly hopeless situations. Nonso gave up, believing his diagnosis was a death sentence, and sadly, he died. But others who chose to seek treatment and believe in healing began to recover. The story reminds us, as long as there is breath, there is hope. 5. One person's love can save a life. Ibuka's unwavering support and love helped Ngozi find healing and redemption. His patience and compassion serve as a reminder that love, when genuine, is transformative. 6. Forgiveness is a bridge to redemption. Ngozi's journey shows that even someone who has made terrible mistakes can be forgiven by others, by God, and by themselves. The story teaches that no one is beyond redemption. 7. We must educate, not just condemn. The way the town treated Ngozi reveals a lack of understanding about HIV. The story highlights the importance of education, awareness, and truth in fighting not just disease, but ignorance and fear. 8. Your past does not define your future. Ngozi went from being labeled virus to becoming healed, loved, and married. Her story teaches that no matter how dark your history is, you can choose a different path forward. So tell me, which lesson hit you the hardest? Comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring love stories that touch the heart. Thanks for watching.